I'm Jeannie. Welcome back to Faithful Palate. Today I have a real treat for you. This week I got some phone calls from some mothers and wives who wanted to make something delicious. They wanted it to be raw and they wanted it to be nutritious, and they didn't know what they could make that would be an appropriate dessert. A dessert for Sunday or a dessert to take to a group gathering. So today I've decided to show you how to make my favorite chocolate pie. And this chocolate pie is completely raw and it's completely healthy. I do want to caution you, however, it is very delicious. And I think that it's probably appropriate to maybe eat this once a week. Not something that you should indulge in every day for lunch, but this is a wonderful, delectable dessert. This comes under the category of what's called gourmet raw. Now, gourmet raw or raw gourmet is a specific category of raw food where we try our very best to imitate traditional foods. However, we do it with raw foods. Anything that you can make cooked, you can make raw, whether it's cookies, cakes, pies, candies, anything like that. Today, we're going to make chocolate pie, and I'm going to start out making the crust. In order to make the crust, you'll need the best equipment that I use for this is my favorite. This is the Cuisinart Prep 11 Plus. You can use a 9 cup. I've got an 11 cup. I use that for my family. And this is my third favorite piece of equipment in my kitchen. My Blendtec is my second favorite and my water machine is my first. But the way you make this crust is that you use, this is the large blade that Cuisinart offers, and this is what they call the S blade. It's the larger of the two blades offered, and you prepare your Cuisinart food processor with the S blade. The three ingredients for this pie crust is 2 cups of nuts. I choose pecans. You can choose any kind of nut that you would prefer. And then I like to lighten this up because nuts have a high degree of oils and natural fats in them. They're very delicious and very nutritious, but they're very dense as well. So I lighten it up with 1 cup of coconut. This is not the same kind of coconut that you might have found in your average grocery store, the kind that's mixed with sugar and comes in a plastic bag. I get this from my local health food store, and I use about 1 cup to 2 cups. 1 cup of coconut to 2 cups of nuts. And then the final ingredient is dates. The dates are being used to bind it together and to give it sweetness. So these 3 ingredients are going to form our pie crust today. All right, so let's go ahead and start with our Cuisinart Prep 11 Plus. And I'm going to add the 2 cups of pecans, which is my favorite nut for making these kinds of crusts. You can use walnuts or whatever other nut makes you happy, but I like to use pecans. And then I'm going to lighten it up a little bit with a cup of coconut. And then it's really only required to use about 3/4 of a cup or a half a pound or so of dates. And so I don't get real heavy-handed with my dates, but I do make sure that there's enough to hold it together. You want to make sure that your crust sticks together and will bind well enough to the pie pan that you're going to be using. All right, so we secure the lid, and then we just go ahead and turn it on. Now you can tell it's done when the machine begins to settle down and it just spins around nicely. It stops wobbling and doing what it does. To test it, you just open it up and you want to see if you can just kind of bind this together. Once this starts binding, if it holds together well, then it's ready. I think it's ready right now, but because I don't want there to be any difficulties with this, I'm going to go ahead and add the rest of these dates, and then we're going to blend that together, and then I'm going to press it in the pie shell. Oh, the pie pan. Okay, so here goes. I'm just going to add a little bit more date to that. Here goes. This looks delicious. Okay, so we have, volume-wise, we have about 3 to 3.5 cups here worth of volume. And that's what we're going to use to fill my glass pie dish. Now, if you've never made a pie crust like this might look like a voluminous amount, but it is not. Once we get this properly pressed into the pie plate, it's going to condense right down. Now, to get this pressed in correctly, what you're going to need is about 1/2 to 3/4 of an inch around the edges and around the bottom. Now the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to press the sides down first. I want to make sure that I have plenty for my sides. Once I've made sure that I have enough to hold my sides in place, then I'm going to go ahead and press down the bottom. And you will see that this makes about the right amount. Now you want to make sure that you press firmly down where the bottom meets the sides. An ideal container for this pie recipe would be one of those nice cheesecake dishes with the breakaway bottom. That's going to give it the fluted edges, and it makes it look quite gourmet and very elegant to take to a party or for a nice Sunday dessert. For today and for simplicity purposes, I've just decided to use my glass pie dish. I don't want anyone to think that this is too fancy, that they can't make it quickly. When you make this the first time, it might take you a half an hour to put the whole thing together, and that includes the crust and the filling we're going to do in just a minute. But eventually, you'll find that you can whip this pie out in about 15 minutes, put it in the fridge, and chill it good, and then take it with you in about an hour, and it will be absolutely fine. Now, you don't have to chill it afterwards, but I like to. It's not required. You know what? You can make this right away, and you can serve it right away. Or you can make the crust, and once the crust is made and pressed into your pie pan, if you cover it with plastic, it will last in your freezer for about a month. Okay, there you have a beautiful pie crust. Now, if you wanted to make a fruit pie, you can just dice up whatever is local and in season in your area, and you can fill the entire pie, just like that. And then you could use some dates and some more of the same fruit to make a syrup to go on the top. And then that could be a fruit pie. So this pie crust has a whole lot of variations and a whole lot of options that you can use. If you didn't have a lot of time to finish this dessert, you could take this crust as is, cover it with plastic, put it in your fridge for about a couple of days or something. You can put it in the freezer for up to a month, okay? All right, now we're going to get started on the filling. Now what we're going to do, now that we've got our crust complete, is we're going to do our chocolate filling. The first thing we want to start with is our sweetener. We're going to sweeten this with 1/2 cup of agave, and you might have guessed I'm going to pick an organic raw blue agave. So I'm going to go ahead and put that in our Cuisinart Prep 11 Plus. That's my favorite. And this is 1/2 cup. I'm going to go ahead and add that. And we're also going to need about 1/2 to 3/4 of a cup worth of dates. So I'm not real picky about measuring this out. I'm pretty good at figuring out how much I'm going to need, and I think I need slightly less than what I've got here. I think that's good. About 1/2 to 3/4 of a cup of dates. Now we're going to whip this up. We're just going to go ahead and turn on our machine and let it work. So here we go. Outstanding. Now that's just dates and agave nectar, so this is just our sweetener. We put that in and we make sure it's a nice creamy filling. Now when you're using a food processor, you will have to scrape the sides down a little bit. And I recommend that you scrape down instead of around the sides so that you don't run into your blade. You don't want to do anything that's going to dull your blade. Like that. Okay. I'm going to scrape that down. And I'm going to mix that up just a little bit more now that I've scraped down the sides. That's perfect. That looks absolutely wonderful. Okay, now The secret ingredient to this chocolate pie is avocado. I use 3 large avocados, and this is the sum and substance of the pie filling. With this pie, I'm throwing in the 3 avocados. I've already mixed them up with a fork because you don't want to overmix avocado in a food processor. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put this in my filling, my sweetener. I'm going to get every bit of it. Avocados are very nourishing. It's a fruit. It's a fruit because it has a seed in the middle, very creamy. It's got a lot of healthy fat in it, good omega-3s. Okay, we've got that. And we're going to add just about a half to a full teaspoon of vanilla. I always use an organic vanilla. It's very worth getting real vanilla. You don't want to get an imitation vanilla, and you don't want to get anything that's not organic. I'm just going to throw in that's about right. Now, if I was making a smoothie and I wanted it to be vanilla, I would go ahead and use a complete vanilla bean. But for my desserts like this, I'm just going to use organic vanilla. And last but not least, I've got an organic raw cocoa. You can get this online. You can look for a raw organic cocoa, or you can check your local health food stores. They should have a good cacao or cocoa or something like that that will be delicious for you. Now, I use cocoa because I love the taste of chocolate. So I'm going to go ahead and put this in. We're going to blend. This is going to be so delicious. Now, you don't want to over blend this, so I'm going to scrape it down right away, because I know that it needs to be. And cocoa is very strong, so you don't want too much of it. When I finish blending this up, I'm going to taste it before I put it in my pie shell, because if it's too strong, I'll have to redo it. If it's not strong enough, you can always add more. Okay, oh, this looks so good. Now, you know I have to taste this. That's perfect. It's not too strong, but it is a little too thick. So I'm going to go ahead and lighten this up a little bit with just a little bit of water. If I wanted to leave it like this, without putting any water in it, it would make a good chocolate frosting if you wanted to frost a raw cake. If I wanted to freeze it and make fudgesicles, I could put this inside some fudgesicles. You have to freeze that for about 4 hours. But as it is, I want to go ahead and use this as a filling for my pie. So I'm just going to add just a touch of water. You can go with a couple of tablespoons, or, I'm just using less than 1/4 cup right now. And I'll blend it just a little bit more. I really love this about my Cuisinart because I can lift this up and look inside and decide whether I need to add more or not. Let's see. This is going to be perfect. All right. What we're going to do now is we're going to go ahead and take our chocolate filling and we're going to add it to our pie. This is perfect. This is looking so delicious. Just use your spatula and spread this around evenly in the pie. Now at this point, you have a pie crust that's filled with chocolate filling. You could go ahead and put this in the refrigerator if you wanted to decorate it later, but I'm ready to go ahead and do it now. So the next thing that we need to do is decorate this pie. The one thing you don't want your family to do is see a pie that looks like this, go cut themselves a piece and have it beg for a squirt of that industrialized whipped cream. That would just ruin it. It would be horrible. Nevertheless, a piece of chocolate pie looks like it demands something on the top. So here's what we're going to do. You can pick whatever kind of fruit you like to decorate it, whatever you think goes with chocolate. My favorite is strawberries. My kids love bananas. So oftentimes I will take sliced bananas and just overlap them here on the edges. And my family will love that. And I'll put a little bit here in the middle, and by the time I cut a slice out, they've got little bananas on the edges and little bananas on the ends, and it looks and tastes delicious. Chocolate and banana is a wonderful combination. My favorite is strawberries. So I've gone ahead and diced some strawberries, and I'm just going to go ahead and put those on the outside edges here. And when I'm finished, you're going to have a delicious dessert that you can serve your family, that you can take to any gathering, and it's going to look just gorgeous, and everybody's going to want a piece. And if you're going to a gathering, you will have a dessert that you can eat. This is going to be wonderful. So here we go. This is a hands-on type operation. So just go ahead and get your diced strawberries, and you're just going to make an edge right around the outside. And there you are, a delicious chocolate pie that you can take to any gathering or serve your family at any time. This is raw, this is whole, and this is absolutely delicious.